Hey everyone, Nick Falato of the Big Blue Banter podcast here to break down Aaron Robinson, the third round selection out of UCF, the cornerback who plays some nickel for them, who can also align as a star, should be a versatile secondary piece for Patrick Graham. This is someone who attended the University of Alabama, transferred to UCF, and had a really good final 2 seasons there at UCF, intercepted 3 passes, got his hands on 15 balls, surrendered 665 yards on 63 catches while facing 113 targets, which is a 56% completion rate, also allowed 6 touchdowns, but I do believe the Giants added a really quality player here, also went down to the Senior Bowl and played well, and I wish I had more film to go over, but I'm working with what I have. So let's dive into this and give a quick synopsis on who Aaron Robinson is. I would say one of the most important aspects of playing cornerback, other than athletic ability and all those obvious ones, is just spatial awareness and having the processing to know your alignment while also knowing your assignment's alignment. And if you look at this play, you have the ball near the far hash here, and you have 2 receivers to this side with Aaron Robinson circled, being the apex defender, that overhang defender, that slot defender is probably the best way to really term it, the nickel. And he's aware that in this area of the field, near the goal line, short yardage, where man coverage is so prevalent, there's a lot of pick and a lot of rub routes. So let's run through this play real fast, and then we'll break it down. It's an excellent play by Robinson there, but let's get through it real quickly. All right, so first, the release off the line of scrimmage here has to be delayed from this inside receiver. So you can see him kind of bring his feet together after exploding to try to get Aaron Robinson on his toes and really get Aaron Robinson thinking. But then he has to delay because he has to allow this outside route to break back inside to create the traffic that Robinson's either going to have to undercut or work over the top. Now, Robinson, this is happening really fast, but he has to be aware that this is going on. So he takes a step back, gives himself space. It's a smart move because he sees that this tempo just changed. It got a lot slower. So what is this receiver doing? Is he breaking outside? So if you look closely, you can see Robinson peering out to the outside to sense what is going on. And he sees that this is breaking, and at that same time, he's reading the hips of his assignment and sees that he's going to plant this inside leg and explode outside. Right as that happens, if you look closely, right as that happens, he's already turning, sees the outside route breaking inside, and he works over the top of it. Now from here, Robinson needs to locate his assignment, get hands-on, not too aggressively, but get hands-on, locate the football, which he does here. This is excellent. He gets hands-on, initiates that contact, locates the football in the air, and gets the inside arm up here while he has the outside arm still in contact with the receiver. Now that is excellent right there. That's how it's taught. You don't want to go up with your outside arm because if you miss that football, then guess what? That ball is going to be in perfect position to be caught by his assignment here. But he goes up with that inside arm while also maintaining that subtle contact on his receiver, makes a play on the football, almost comes up with an interception. Let's run through it one more time here. Delayed release. He has that stop. You can see his head turns slightly, senses that this is happening. Right as he sees what's going on, breaks to work over the top of the traffic, closes with, initiates contact, gets eyes up in the air, locates the football with the inside arm, falls to the ground. That's a really good play right there from Aaron Robinson. He shows patience, processing, ball skills, and recovery, and that's something that you'll see in a lot of these clips. And I don't know if that's an indictment on his ability to maintain position. I'm not saying that at all, but he does have excellent recovery speed, and that's probably due to his elite fluidity in his lower half, specifically in his hips, which you will see on this play. We'll run through it. Here's Aaron Robinson, the nickel right here. Let's look at the field. Now you have the football kind of towards that far hash. There's a lot of football field from the football all the way to the sideline. And then you have this receiver group right here, 2 receivers, and it's in a slight stack. It's not too tight, but it's a stack, and it's inside of the numbers. So let's see exactly what's going to happen. Now watch that fluidity right there. Break on the football, get aggressive. Now this is what Aaron Robinson's doing. You see his head turns right to this assignment. He's reading the number 2 and the number 1 receiver. And what he's trying to do is basically execute a wall technique here. Now a wall technique is, you can see how he turns his body basically parallel to the sideline. The wall technique is in place to prevent a receiver from running basically deep dig routes, deep over routes, and anything that's going to cross deep in the middle portions of the field. And you can see how if this receiver right here were to do that, then you have this safety over the top, and you also have Aaron Robinson. Say this receiver was going to break like this, he would have been in a perfect position to undercut that, which would have forced basically an impossible throw from the quarterback. But that's not what happened. What happens is this guy ends up angling his stem inward to try to bait Aaron Robinson to believe that's exactly what will happen, but then he just plants his foot and basically runs a corner type of route or a 7 type of route. And instead, that outside receiver is going in the middle of the field. So Robinson gets baited here, and you can see, and watch his hip position here. His hips are basically pointed upfield, yet he's still able to pivot off of this foot right here, plant the other foot, get his hips oriented in the complete opposite direction, come back to the catch point, and play through physically. Now, this is an excellent play that shows just his unique fluidity and his ability to really make some mistakes sometimes and be able to overcompensate for them because he has excellent athletic ability and excellent lower body fluidity. That's a great play right there. Thinks he's going to wall this guy off, gets his hips turned all the way around, and then flips them completely back. And if you just watch that 1-2 step there to get a flip, 1-2. Play 1-2 and 1-2. That's excellent stuff right there. Got this clip off the Break Shot YouTube page. Check them out. And we have Aaron Robinson as a boundary cornerback and a press alignment right here. And as I mentioned earlier, spatial awareness is a big part of this. Now, there's not a lot of opportunity for this receiver to run an outside breaking route when he is in these plus splits outside of the numbers. As you can see, a speed out, a fade, a comeback, those types of routes probably aren't as good. So you're looking for releases inside when you're in this type of alignment. Slants, curls, post, stig. It's not necessarily a golden rule, but it's just something to keep in mind. But we should probably run through this play. You can see he shuffles here. That's what you want to see. Then it gets sloppy a little bit, but he still makes that play on the football. Now, you like to see this initial shuffle, right? Because if you think about it, during the release, you want to force wide receivers to work laterally. Use your kick step. Use a shuffle. And then you could 45-degree turn when you're in a press alignment once the route has been declared. Because the quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line, right? So don't make it easy for the wide receiver. Force him to work around you. Disrupt the timing of the play. Force him to get into his arsenal of releases, but you got to stay square and you got to stay patient. And Robinson doesn't do an excellent job of doing this here, but man, this guy can really, really recover. So if we watch this, he shuffles, does a good job there. And then you can see it. The wide receiver does a good job kind of planting the inside foot and then exploding back outside. And if you look at Robinson, he thinks that this is going to be an outside release. There's not a lot of space here. He's already basically off the red line, this receiver. But he gets Robinson to commit that direction, and then you could see him cross over there. And that's not something you want to see, that crossover right there. He gets himself to cross over, and then he notices that this is going to be a release back inside. So Robinson does a solid job subtly using that inside arm to grab the inside shoulder and not get completely beat here. He crosses over, and that leaves himself very vulnerable. But he's able to recover, get those hips flipped, and then jump and undercut the pass right here, almost to intercept the ball. I mean, that's pretty impressive recovery there. Now, you don't like the technique as much going up the stem. He gets manipulated a little bit, gets crossed over a little bit, ends up getting that hand right there on the inside, which is the only thing he could do. And he doesn't use a jam here at the line of scrimmage, which is fine, but typically you always want to jam with your off hand. So if a wide receiver releases inside, you want to jam with your outside hand. If a wide receiver releases outside, you want to jam with your inside hand, because if you attempt to jam an inside release with your inside hand and say that does not end up working well, you're probably going to have a bad time, as that skiing dude in South Park would say. So, because, one well-timed swipe and your hips aren't going to be in position, and then you're going to be incredibly compromised. Now, we don't really see that here, although right here he has to, make contact with his inside arm, and then he somehow gets flipped, and I believe he does that. You can't really see it on the screen by latching onto the receiver and then using the hip fluidity that we talked about to just jump in front of that catch point. Again, very impressive maneuverability from Robinson, and here we see him in the slot. And there's not much here for this play. You can see the ball is towards the middle of the field, 2x2 set. There's a lot of space from the football to Aaron Robinson, but still a slot right there. And he seems like he's in somewhat of an outside shade here, so he's basically baiting this receiver to go inside. And that's exactly what happens. He shuffles, routes declared. You can see the receiver, and Aaron Robinson should be reading his near hip. You always want to read the near hip, because when you do that, the defender is going to stay square. And if that near hip disappears, then the route is basically going to be declared at that point. The route is declared at that point, and then the defender can commit because the route has been declared. And that's what happens here. So he's going inside here. Robinson can see that, declare the route, starts working, hand fighting him. That's good. And then, as we said before, spatial awareness, right? This route right here releases inside, which you should know by this point, that's going to create a lot of space outside. So Robinson stays right on that near hip right there, is giving him contact through that outside shoulder, and then once he sees and feels, because he has contact, the receiver sink his hips, he's right in position to just do the same, sink his hips, and put himself in position to make a play if the throw went in that direction. And this is happening because he's reading this near hip and because he's in really good position. Like, there's nowhere really for him to go. If he wanted to break inside, he could, and then he would drive down like this. There's a lot of pressure going on here, so this football needs to come out. But Robinson is in perfect position to feel this route out, and if there was an outside breaking route, which there was, he can easily transition and put himself in a position to make a play on the football if a throw were to happen. Here we see a stack from the Houston Cougars. Aaron Robinson right here on the line of scrimmage as that nickel defender against the receiver that is on the line of scrimmage. And let's watch it real quick and then we'll break it down. Excellent job getting the hand on the football, as we can see here. But the technique isn't great, okay? Now, you always want to move your feet before you move your hands. That's one of the key parts to playing press coverage. And he does this here. He takes his key step with that outside foot, watches the release, but then he does a double punch. He tries to get both hands on, which is never advisable. And we'll go through this receiver's release really quick. But if this receiver did a better job using his inside arm to just nail or club the inside arm of Aaron Robinson, then Robinson's hips are going to be pointed directly in this direction. But instead, you can see that Robinson's able to pivot off that outside foot and get himself back into phase. And you can credit Robinson for making some contact there with that inside arm to slow down and not allow the receiver to totally manipulate Robinson here. But he doesn't shuffle enough here, and he just gets baited by this hard outside jab foot. And in doing so, you can see how his feet flow laterally, but he doesn't bring himself with it. And then he ends up lunging at the waist and trying to make contact with both of his arms. And it's not good. Puts himself into a very compromised position. But as we've seen a couple times through this, his ability to maneuver his hips and not lose any momentum, and just also start up momentum if he's not having momentum going, it's unique. It's very, very impressive. And it allows him to get bailed out of a lot of situations that he shouldn't find himself in if he executes the best or perfect type of technique. And it also allows cornerbacks to be more risky. It does. And this play, you could even probably say that he deserves some PI here. There's a little bit of holding. But, that's a really good release. And number 5, if he could have just finished that with a harder outside or inside arm club on the inside arm of Aaron Robinson, could have been really, really bad for Robinson. But Robinson's able to quickly close with. Luckily, he lost his balance because of the contact Robinson made. And he stays right on top of this route. And the route breaks outside. And then Robinson feels it. And yeah, he mugs him a little bit. Feels it. gets his eyes on the quarterback, sees what exactly is breaking down, and doesn't let the receiver out of his sight. And when the receiver starts coming back, he just closes with again, gets his hands back on, dives in front of the football, locates it, gets PBU. The technique there wasn't excellent, but he's still able to recover. And it's a testament to those athletic traits, to his recovery ability, mainly because of those hips, to be honest, too. And he just also has a knack for playing fast, getting himself back into phase. He's very, very physical. He's a nuisance, which is great, but it also may lead to some flags. And here we see him, 3-by-1 set. He is that slot defender right here. And I talked about spatial awareness a few times through this video. This guy is going to release on a little speed out, as you see. Let's move this. He's going to release on a little speed out. Now, that route is already at the numbers. It's going this direction. Why, in this zone type of concept, is he going to just carry this to the sideline when this could just be a high-low concept? As you can see, high, low. You have him playing over the top, this defender right here. And this looks like it's a zone match defense. We just want to go through the coverage real quick. You can see this corner passes this wide receiver off. This player passes this wide receiver off. Now, everybody is already coming downhill on this receiver because the throw is released at that point. But I like what Aaron Robinson does here in this zone match type of defense. He feels us out. He knows there's no more space here. This guy's no longer a threat. So let me get my eyes back on the quarterback, see what the quarterback is doing, read him, and then try to make a play on the football. So he does that, realizes it is a high-low concept at his zone, and then he comes over to the receiver and makes a tackle. Now, it's not a flashy play, but it's just one that shows quick awareness, realizes this play's dead, comes off, isn't able to get to the catch point, but still is able to make a tackle. This right here is a mesh concept. Mesh concepts can be dangerous against man coverage. Why? They create traffic. And look right here. That's traffic. That is a lot of traffic right there. You have multiple crossing routes. You have another crossing route right here. But Robinson is able to avoid his teammates. And he can't stay completely in phase. And it's very, very difficult to do that. But he doesn't get picked off. He's able to stay on top of the route, which is important. Then he's able to drive back downhill and make a physical tackle. And we'll get into his tackling, because his tackling is something that Joe Judge, Patrick Graham, Dave Gettleman, me, you, we're going to love, because he's a physical tackler. And that's why the Giants envision him as someone who can play that star position, which is a hybrid safety linebacker, somebody who is going to be out there on in dollar formations where you can roll out a lot of defensive backs, and it's not going to be a huge compromise to your run defense because you can tackle, and you bring that kind of power element to your game as a defensive back. And here we see elements of that. I mean, essentially, he's in the box. He's accounted for right here. What does he do? Love this play from him now. Looks simple, right? But there's a lot going on here. This running back may have a choice route, and he's going up directly against Aaron Robinson. So he releases. You can see he does that quick stutter, which we've seen before. But what does Robinson do? He doesn't panic. He doesn't go to the right. He knows he has a teammate here who could take him if he does end up going inside. So he shades outside, shuffles outside, and allows that break to happen. But look, he's square. I love that. He stays square until that route is committed, and then he plants his foot in the ground and he drives downhill and makes a play on the football. And this is great technique right here too. Look, he's not getting really, really risky and trying to dive in front for the interception, nor is he using this outside arm to knock the ball away. He uses that inside arm, which is great because then he can use that outside arm to feel the receiver, subtly alter what the receiver wants to do, and also use it as a contingency plan just in case he misses the football with that inside arm. So you can see him grab him here. He's able to tackle him even if he were to make the catch and miss the football. So it's just good technique at the catch point, good physicality at the catch point. Dive with that inside arm, knock it away with your inside arm, use your outside arm to control that receiver, not to let that receiver break away if he does end up catching the football. Good play by Aaron Robinson. Here we see a true stack at the top of the screen. We have Aaron Robinson off the line of scrimmage here, and we're going to have this player drop off into his zone coverage right here, and then this guy who turned into a creeper right before the play was run ends up going to make a 4-man pressure package, but it leaves a huge void right here. And we'll show you the play, and then we'll break it down real fast. So you see the huge void that ends up coming here, and you have the ball on the far hash, and this defensive back right here is going to initiate contact and ride the receiver vertically, as will the slot. Initiate contact, ride vertically, because those two are clear out routes, and this ends up becoming a deep in or dig type of route, which could have created a high-low if there was a linebacker here to be there, but there wasn't. So what happens? Aaron Robinson is tasked to come downhill on this receiver breaking over the middle in the voided area and make a tough play. And you can see he shuffles inside, reading the patterns of both of these receivers, shuffles inside, sees this route be declared, knows the cornerback has him, this route's declared, cornerback has him, and makes this receiver right here the assignment. And there's some considerable space here, so he has to plant and drive downhill quickly, sees the quarterback was in trouble, finds his receiver who's in that voided area, and look how fast, we'll run it back, look how fast Robinson is here. Clicks, diagnosis, aggressively attacks the catch point. Now, he doesn't get his hands in the catch point, but he knows the receiver's going up, has to climb the ladder, extend away from his frame. So Robinson delivers a tough, hard hit right into the receiver, finishes really, really strong. You don't have to necessarily get your hands into the catch point if you can't, and at this juncture, it doesn't look like he really was going to be able to. Just deliver that hard hit and punish the receiver. Robinson does just that there. Now let's see that here. This is just tackling right here. See Robinson, again, not too far away from the box, but you also have 3 receivers that are inside of the hashes. The ball's on the far hash, but 3 receivers inside the hashes is a really, really tight offensive formation. So Robinson bails to his own, sees the flat pass, and now you need to make this tackle if you're a defensive back. This is what the Giants want. The Giants want secondary pieces. They want cornerbacks who can step up and run support and not be a liability. And this is a big reason why we saw Isaac Yiadom last year. Isaac Yiadom was not great in coverage. He was a liability in man coverage, yet he could step up and be very aggressive, very physical, was not scared to tackle. Neither is Aaron Robinson here. And this isn't a punishing hit by any means, but the catch is made, and right as the running back tries to turn upfield, tries to get his stiff arm up, look at Robinson. It's hard to tell, but you can see very, very low. He's balanced. He's broken down. Both of his arms are extended. He's not flying in undisciplined. He's executing good tackle mechanics, and then he dives, gets both legs, drags down. Here we see him in the box again. It's a power gap, pin pull type of concept. Robinson's going to flow outside. He reads the keys. He sees the lead blocker coming. Pulling the backside guard and the backside tackle here. You have the center, front side guard, tackle on the front side, all pinning. The running back's just going to follow his blockers. Robinson boxes them inside, and look at this. This is a big, wide rushing lane right here. Robinson's able to not take contact from that pulling offensive lineman. He actually puts his hand, if you look closely, puts that outside hand on his shoulder pad to propel himself back upfield to make that aggressive tackle right there. Let's run through it one more time. Sees the blockers, sets up outside, boxes the run back inside, so this alley defender would have been able to come down and make this play, which he does, as does Robinson before he gets annihilated by an offensive lineman. Here we just see an aggressive fill, linebacker type fill. And this is the star position that Joe Judge talked about with Aaron Robinson. He sees the H-back pull, looking like it could be some sort of split zone. Robinson just fills that B gap as it comes open. And this 4-eye technique occupies this guard, and man on line of scrimmage occupies this tackle, and the center can't get over to make this block on Aaron Robinson, and Aaron Robinson does a good job being instinctual, seeing what the running back's doing, playing that cat and mouse game with the running back, filling, and you love that. Look, low, hard, aggressive hit, lifts up, and rally tackle. Doesn't finish strong there, not an indictment, but he hits the running back, allows all of his teammates to rally and make the play. And that's what you need. You're going to see Robinson come in a little bit. There's Robinson. And you love seeing defenders who can make turnovers, force turnovers. Robinson punches the football here as number 24 attempts to break this tackle. Ball comes out. UCF picks it up. Now here, let's play against Cincinnati. Again, shout out to Break Shot. You can't really see it in this screen. You'll see Robinson play the release, then he sees. You can see his eyes right now. You have guys. You have some sort of outside run with the quarterback with maybe an option pass to number 12 who doesn't look like he wants to lead block for his quarterback. He seemed to be a little bit confused. But what I love about Robinson is the movement skills and the ability to stay square here. Look, he's square. Number 9 is trying to put moves on him, and he is not biting. And then Robinson's angle to this tackle point, he goes outside. He's following the hips. He's following the path of this ball carrier. And he attacks and he makes the tackle. Let's run through it one more time. Went a little bit too far. You have the zone read element. Reading this guy. Goes outside, should have a lead blocker, doesn't decide to block, thinks he's going to get a pass. Nobody accounts for Robinson, yet Robinson still stays square. Attacks aggressively downhill to make this play. Here we see Robinson come up and run support again. Gets off this block. Wide receiver tries to cut off the angle. The running back breaks a few tackles here. This tackle breaks that poor tackle. Then Robinson flies in and helps make a strong tackle here against this running back and run support. Love to see that aggressiveness and that physicality, and he has it. And you love to see the effort that you're going to see here. Backside pursuit right here. Robinson chases the running back down. I mean, his original alignment is outside this hash. This is what you expect from football players. You don't always get it, though. He's outside the hash. The far hash is where the running back is on the outside. The outside run, too. Was that the C gap? Is that a tight end? He hits the C gap off the kick out block, makes a couple guys miss. Robinson tracks him down. Good competitive toughness there. Now, so far in this video, from a technique standpoint, there are things that he can clean up, but you can just see the immense upside that a player like Aaron Robinson has, just with those athletic traits and the ability to move, because his fluidity is just ridiculous, as you've seen, and then you just love how strong he is at the point of attack as a tackler. That's just an extra bonus, and I think that's what really endeared him to this Giants coaching staff, because we know the New York Giants put a high priority on those secondary pieces who can tackle, as I said before. But here are two plays that are a little bit, I wouldn't say concerns, but two plays where there are more stuff that he can clean up. And it's not necessarily just from a technical standpoint. Now we see him in the slot. Shuffles well. Let me run through the play first, and then we'll go through it. Now, UCF ends up getting an interception here. It's probably Richie Grant because he's a stud. Now let's watch. Shuffles. This route's already committing. The angle of this receiver's stem is inside. So Robinson's angling his hips that way. Does his 45-degree turn. And he feels the sinking of the hips here. And that's important, right? What we saw earlier. He felt the sinking of the hips. He was able to stay on top. But here, he anticipates that there's going to be a throw. He tries to look through this wide receiver, and he loses that near hip. He loses that near hip. And you can see how he's looking through at the quarterback and not realizing that this receiver is planting that inside foot in a manner where he's going to be exploding back vertically and not horizontally. He tries to bait that throw, gets a little greedy, and if it wasn't for the safety going in this direction, then he would have been burnt on this double move, albeit the safety probably wouldn't have went in that direction if the quarterback didn't throw the football in that direction. So they're presumably would have been safety help over the top here. But you can see how right at this moment, Aaron Robinson isn't necessarily paying attention to what this receiver's doing, and he gets beat on this double move because he's trying to bait this quarterback into throwing an interception or undercutting this route. Because at this point, you can kind of see this receiver, he's leaning inside towards this. He's not looking to explode horizontally, looking to explode vertically. And that's exactly what he does, and then you can see the separation there. Luckily, Robinson didn't pay for this. And we have this play. We saw a similar formation before, 3 tight receivers from the offense, very tight offensive formation. Right here, you see zone coverage, and this is just ends up being a blown coverage. It's not necessarily all on Aaron Robinson, but this receiver gets lost in the sauce, and there's reason for him to get lost. This is what happens when you line up tight like this. You have him release outside like this. So Aaron Robinson, he's thinking that this cornerback has this assignment. But that's not exactly what happens, because this cornerback is reading the number 3 receiver, and he sees that he's breaking up this seam and is going to run a deep 7 route. So nobody accounts for this player right here. Now, could have been a breakdown in communication, yes, but it seems like this defender had deep responsibilities here, and then it was Robinson who had the flat here. That doesn't necessarily happen. He loses sight of this. Miscommunication, maybe not a huge knock on Robinson, but I thought I would just bring the play to light here, because this guy gets totally lost in a high leverage area by the end zone, by the goal line. But then Robinson goes and makes a tackle, because that's what Robinson does. Alrighty, and this is the quick Aaron Robinson breakdown. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Please give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, watch this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel. Dan and I are trying to grow this channel right now. We host the Big Blue Banter podcast. For anybody who isn't aware of our podcast, you can find it wherever you guys get podcasts. We break down the Giants All-22 film, talk about the X's and O's, the scheme, and just go over everything New York Giants. So if you're a fan of the New York Giants and the National Football League, please check out our podcast, Big Blue Banter. Also, go and check out our Instagram page, NY Big Blue Banter. That would be awesome. As for Aaron Robinson, I think the Giants located a guy who can play multiple positions for them, a guy who's not going to be a liability in run support, a guy who's going to execute really strong physical traits while coming up and aggressively playing the run from the nickel spot, from the boundary spot, from the safety spot if they need to move him there, and from that star position, that hybrid linebacker safety type of position. I think that Robinson allows them to do a lot of unique things with their personnel while also giving them more depth at the cornerback spot. Because if we remember last year, this Giants team trotted out a lot of Isaac Yiadom. And I like Isaac Yiadom's toughness, but he's not somebody that's going to allow you to run a lot of man coverages. Aaron Robinson, with that lower body hip fluidity and those athletic traits, will allow you to run a lot of man coverage if you choose to. He also has a lot of experience in press alignments as well. I think he can clean some stuff up with his footwork, but he has a lot of reps under his belt executing the type of concepts that I expect Patrick Graham to run in 2021, because last year it was a lot of zone coverage, and I think the Giants want to do more than just that. And also you had Aaron Robinson, and you still have Darnay Holmes. You're not going to see those Isaac Yiadoms and those Ryan Lewises on the field as much. I also think the Giants got a guy who's very, very aggressive at the catch point, plays through the catch point with physicality, and is just not somebody who is going to back down from anybody in the National Football League. I think he has the mentality that the Giants want, and the Giants also traded up to get him, and that just did not allow the Philadelphia Eagles to draft him, which a lot of people presume really upset some people in the Eagles front office, as there was an NFL Network clip that came out of, I think, the director of college scouting being very upset after the Eagles selected Milton Williams and Aaron Robinson went a few picks earlier when the Giants jumped them. So it was an interesting draft because the Eagles jumped the Giants earlier with the Cowboys to land Devonta Smith. But I think Aaron Robinson is going to play a solid amount of reps in year one. I think it just adds just another interesting piece to this deep, deep secondary, one of the deeper secondaries in the National Football League, and it could be one of the best secondaries in the National Football League if Xavier McKinney can stay healthy, Jabril Peppers can take another step, Logan Ryan can maintain the greatness that he showed last year, James Bradberry can maintain that greatness, and then if Adoree Jackson is the 2018 in 2019 Adoree Jackson, then the Giants may really be in a good spot from a secondary standpoint, which will allow the edge rushers and the pass rush to get home. So maybe you can see Leonard Williams getting double-digit sacks again. Azeez Ojulari could have a solid rookie year. You may get Lorenzo Carter, O'Shane Ximines back, and hopefully this 2021 Giants defense can even take another step off of what the 2020 Giants defense did under Patrick Graham's tutelage, because that 2020 defense was a bit of surprise. Now a lot of lights are on this 2021 defense, so let's hope they live up to the billing, and a player like Aaron Robinson can step in and allow them to do multiple different things, and I think the Giants really appreciate that about his skill set. So this is the Aaron Robinson review. Like I said earlier, please subscribe, like, and comment on this channel. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day.